What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm in a little bit of a rush, so I'm gonna get started. This is my labor story. If I can get through it. Okay, so a lot of you have been asking about my labor story and what I experienced and everything, and honestly it's not tiring, but I want to make sure that I have all the details of my story and a way where people can just go and watch it instead of me having to repeat it over and over every time I see someone. I'm gonna start off about a week before I went into labor, just for that one day. If you are a mother or you are expecting, you know that the last month of your pregnancy, you have to go into the OB office every week to check everything just in case you go into labor early or whatever. She'll let you know. My appointment was on a Wednesday. What are you doing? Waiting until I talk to make a noise? My appointment was on a Wednesday, so I went there and she checked my cervix and everything, and she's like, oh. She's like, oh, you're actually 3 centimeters dilated. Are you in any pain? And I'm like, no, I don't feel anything. I don't feel any different, because unfortunately I was one of the unlucky ones to start having Braxton Hicks contractions at the beginning of my 3rd trimester. So I've been having contractions for the past 3 months. So the contractions that were going along with the 3 centimeters dilation did not faze me at all. I didn't notice anything different. So I'm like, no, I don't feel any pain, just the same old contractions that I've been having for the past 3 months, which is one of the things I wish I knew, by the way, in pregnancy. I thought Braxton Hicks contractions come when you're about to go into labor and it's just like false labor type of thing. No, you can actually get it in the beginning of your 3rd trimester, so it doesn't actually indicate that you're starting labor anytime soon. So yeah, I told her I'm not feeling any pain, just the same old contractions that I've been having for the past 3 months. And she's like, okay. And then I asked her, I was like, wait, so what are you saying? Like, I'm in labor right now? Like, what's going on? And she's like,
oh, well, we don't know yet, you know. We're gonna send you to the hospital and be admitted just for observation. If you don't dilate anymore after a few hours, then we'll just send you home, and then you'll come back when your water breaks or if you start feeling any pain or whatever.
So I left the doctor's office, and luckily the hospital that I was gonna give birth in was literally right across the street. So she wrote me on a prescription slip whatever was needed to be done that I needed to hand to the front desk of the labor unit. So I got there, I went into this room, I had to take all my clothes off and go into bed, and they had to like monitor me. I was on like heart monitors, and they did an ultrasound to check to see if the baby was okay. My water did not break. I did not dilate anymore. I was there for like 6 or 7 hours, from like 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock to like 11 or something like that. And okay, you guys, so he didn't want to go to sleep, so I just put him right there in the swing. Hopefully that'll keep him occupied for a minute. All right, he seems good for now. So they drew blood and everything. They did a bunch of tests and all that stuff, and I didn't think I was gonna be there that long, so Alex didn't come. Thought I was gonna be there for like an hour or 2, and then after like 3 or 4 hours, I was like, hey, can you come by? I'm kind of bored. So he came by and spent the last few hours there with me. Finally got time to leave, and they said that I had to do like a pee test thing or whatever, like a 24-hour pee sample thing, where they give you like this huge jug and you have to pee in it for 24 hours and bring it back in the next day. So I did that, and the next day I brought it in and they had to draw blood again. I'm like, no, you drew blood like yesterday. Can you use that sample? And they're like,
oh no, it has to be within like the 24 hours
time frame. And I'm like, seriously? So they're like,
oh yeah, they shouldn't have drawn blood on that day before
or whatever. So I was like, great, like more needles. Like, come on, I've been getting stuck by needles like so many times during the pregnancy. I hate it. I was so glad to be over with that. That was one of the things I did not miss. Yeah, so I have no idea what the blood samples and anything was for. I asked before and I forgot. So yeah, Anyway, so they did that and then I went home. And also another thing to point out is that my doctor was like, oh, if you might be going into labor right now. If you're not going into labor, you might be going into labor over the weekend. We're gonna schedule you for another appointment on my regular OB checkup next week. She's like, just as a precaution or just in case you don't go into labor, but you're most likely not gonna need it. And I'm like, okay. So then I started freaking out because I wanted to do so much stuff. So when I was at the hospital, I was like really nervous because I really wanted to do this video time frame thing or whatever with my belly transformation, which I did. And I'll leave the link up, or the video link up, like right here, because I put it as like a short on one of my videos. So I did that, but they sent me home after everything, so I was able to do it that day. That was still on a Wednesday. I think we did it like on the Thursday. So over the weekend, everything was fine. Nothing felt any different. I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna go into labor this week, because I don't know. I know my body. It doesn't seem like I'm gonna go into any labor or anything. On Sunday, September 19th, my friend texted me. She was like, oh, for some reason, I feel like you're going into labor today, but that's just me. You don't have to think anything of it. I just feel like you're going to go into labor today. And I was like, okay. Like, that's just random. She didn't even know anything about my appointments or anything like that. So I'm really bad at counting contractions, by the way. So at 7:30 at night, I get one of the contractions, and then I noticed that they've been coming like more frequently and stuff. So I was like, let me count a contraction just to see, but I never take the time to do that or whatever. I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna wait until like I feel pain or water breaks or something. I don't know. So I was like, let me just count this contraction and see when was the next one. So it was like 7:39 at night. Then the next contraction came at like 7:42, and I was like, oh, that's within 5 minutes. So I remember my OB saying that you have to monitor. They have to come within 5 minutes of each other for a whole hour, and then to go into the hospital if it does that, or if your water breaks, or if you feel a little pain or whatever. So those are the signs that you're in labor, that you need to actually go into the hospital. So I started counting the contractions. The first one came within 5 minutes, and then I was like, oh, okay, let's see when the next one comes. 7:42, I felt like a little trickling down in my pants, and I was like, and I was on my bed, and I'm like, what's that? That's not pee. So I get up, I go to the toilet, and then I'm just like seeing like water like dripping into the toilet. Like, I was like, oh, I think my water is breaking. Like, there's another thing that they don't tell you is your water doesn't just like gush out of you, you know? Sometimes it's like a trickle or whatever, or sometimes the water doesn't even break at all. So yeah, so those are the things that I didn't know before. I mean, I found out about it like a few months before I actually went into labor, but yeah, like I wish I knew that before or anything, just for more information. I was on the toilet and I was like, oh my god, I think my water is breaking, and it's just like gradually trickling down, and then it stops, and then continuing a little bit more, and then it stops. So I had these reusable period pads, and I was using those, and I went through like maybe like 7 of them before we actually left to the hospital, which by the way, it took me like 2 hours to leave because I was a little bit in denial. So I was on the toilet, then I got up and I was like, oh, people are gonna be down there soon. I think my water is breaking. Let me go take a shower. So I took a shower, and then I'm taking my time. I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling any pain. Let me just like not rush it, because you know, I don't want to stay too long in the hospital. Like, that's money right there, you know? So I'm gonna go like when it's like the last minute and stuff. So I went, take a shower, and I was even in denial. I didn't even want to tell my husband. He's outside playing his video games. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting ready. I didn't even pack a bag, mind you. I'm packing my bag a little bit, trying to figure out like what to bring. And then my husband comes in and he's like,
hey, just came in to check on you. Everything's good.
And I'm like, I think my water is breaking. And he's like,
wait, what?
And I was like, yeah, but it's okay. I'm not feeling any pain or anything. So you can just continue doing what you're doing. I'm just like packing a bag. And he's like,
are you serious? Like, do you need any help?
And all that stuff. And I was like, no, it's okay. I'm just doing this or whatever. And I just took a shower and all that stuff. I'm getting ready. So he's like, okay, well, let me know if you need any help. He's like,
let me know if you need any help.
And I was like, okay, thanks. So he went back outside. He went back outside to continue playing his video game. And it was so funny because I heard him talking to the guys online. And he's like, oh, hey guys, so I can only play one more game if you guys want. My wife's water just broke. And then he started laughing. He was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden he came back. He was like, all right, so I'm gonna help you. Tell me what to do or whatever, because the guys kicked me off. So I know you didn't want any help or anything, but like, let me help you because the guys kicked me off. They told me to leave. So I thought that was pretty funny. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't really know what to do. I don't really know what to bring. I'm just like trying to throw stuff in a bag and figure out what, because I don't know how, because I don't know how long I'm gonna be in the hospital. So yeah, I have no idea what to bring. I'm like looking at Pinterest stuff or whatever, trying to figure out what to put in the bag. I'm a procrastinator, you guys. I do things last minute. Oh well. So, I mean, look at this video. It's like 2 months later. 2 months. He's so big. Anyway. Yeah, so we finally get the bag ready and everything, and it took me like 2 hours. So I'm moving like super slow, obviously, because I'm still in denial that I have to go to the hospital right now. 2 hours later, like around 9:30, we leave the house and go to the hospital. We had to go through the ER this time because after 8 o'clock, the front doors of the hospital is closed, so you can't go through the main entrance. You have to go through the ER. So we went through the ER. I signed in, and I realized that I forgot my wallet and I forgot my insurance, which are the things that you need when you're going into labor, the things that should be on the list. And I did put my bag there, but I forgot it on the couch. Luckily, because I was admitted into the hospital a few days prior, all my information, insurance, and all that stuff was already in there, so I just had to sign in and I didn't have to actually leave the facility and go back to home to get my stuff, which wouldn't have been that bad anyway because it's like 7 minutes away from my house. But you know, I didn't want my husband to leave me, so they allowed everyone to stay and get me upstairs for monitoring or whatever. Signed in, and then I'm waiting for the person to come down with the wheelchair, and I'm like, do we have to wait? Like, I can walk, I know where it is. And they're like, no, it's best for you to wait. And then my water started breaking even more, and I'm like holding my pants because I was like, I don't want to make a mess in the ER. So I'm holding my pants to like hold the water in because I was wearing like these basketball shorts, and people are like staring at me. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go around a corner because this is awkward. They finally come with the wheelchair and we go up there, and we're in basically the same room as the observation room. I take off all my clothes and everything and I get into bed. Then they're like, okay, so, and they take the wheelchair away, by the way. Actually, most importantly, this part, when we finally got up to the labor ward, I was like, hey, so why is it so hot in here? I don't understand. It was so cold the other day. Why is the AC like warm? Like one nurse was like,
oh, I felt it too, like it was a little bit warm, but I didn't want to say anything.
I was like, you didn't want to say anything. It's hot. What are you talking about? There's no air. So then another nurse came and was like,
yeah, the AC is broken and they're trying to fix it right now.
I was like, the AC is broken and I'm going into labor? I was like, that's not good. So when are you guys gonna get that fixed? And they're like,
oh, we don't know. They're working on it right now.
I'm like, great. So I go into the room, into the observation room, one of the observation rooms that I was in on Wednesday. I take off all my clothes, I get ready, and they took the wheelchair away. Then they come back and I was like, okay, so you're dilating a little bit more now, so we're gonna get you into the labor room while you can still move and everything. So I was like, okay, great. Then they come back and they're like,
okay, so we don't have a wheelchair anymore. Are you okay to walk to the labor room?
I'm like, I gotta walk now? I was like, whatever. I'm like in shock, in denial, and also really excited at the same time. So like all these things kind of didn't really faze me. So I was like, okay, no problem. So I get up and I'm wearing like these these white Crocs right here. I'm wearing these Crocs and I'm wearing like the gown and everything, and I have to like hold everything together. My husband has my bag of stuff and they're holding me because my water is breaking while I'm walking to the labor room. I had to walk past, go through double doors to go back into like the waiting area where the nurse's station was, and then go through another set of double doors to go into the labor room. And it's hot, you guys. It's hot, my water is breaking, and these shoes are like rubber, so my feet are slipping inside the shoes, and I'm freaking out because I don't want to fall. What did they do with this wheelchair within like 5 minutes? Like they literally took it away 5 minutes earlier. Anyway, so we get to the labor room and I'm there and I'm still not really feeling any pain. I get to like 6 or 7 centimeters dilated, maybe like around 11 o'clock at night. And then yeah, because by the way, when I got into the hospital, I was 4 centimeters dilated. So my water broke at 4 centimeters and so I was like 3 centimeters for like 5 days. Anyway, after time started passing by, 6 or 7 centimeters dilated, like around 11 o'clock, that's when I started feeling like a little bit of pain, and it was like really hot and stuff. So after the pain started gradually like getting worse and worse and worse, and I am like screaming, and the nurses are coming in and asking me like,
oh, like, are you feeling okay?
do you want an epidural? I was like, no, I want to do it naturally. And I was like, but I really need to pee. And then they're like, okay, but you can't go to the bathroom right now because whatever reason, I have no idea why. So we're gonna give you like this bedpan thing, and then you can like lie down and pee in it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how people are supposed to do this, but I'll try. So I'm over here, I have the bedpan under me, and they're still in the room. My husband's still in the room, which I don't care if he is, but they're still in the room. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying. I can't go. Like, you guys are here. Like, I'm kind of shy, which is weird because you're gonna watch me push out a human being right now, but still, like, I can't pee in front of you. So, like, it's not working right now. Like, whatever. So I take the pan away after like maybe like 5 minutes of trying. Then Alice got like this cardboard box thing or whatever to fan me, because they also didn't have any fans in the labor ward, which I thought was weird. Of like, why don't you have fans in the hospital, you know? Listen, all the stuff that is going wrong during my labor was completely fine for me, just because the nurses and all the staff and everyone were really nice. They were like really nice, and I would definitely go back there. The only thing that was really wrong was the AC, and honestly, they had nothing to do about that, you know, so that was fine. So I didn't want to be one of those difficult patients. Hey! So I was just cooperating with everything that they told me to do and all that stuff. So I was on an IV. Yeah, so I was like, whatever. If I start pushing and I pee on them, whatever, you know, like I'm probably gonna poop on them anyway. I have no idea. So they took the bedpan away. I was on the IV drip, which I think was the reason why I couldn't go actually walk to the bathroom, which I didn't really want to have to figure that stuff out anyway. So I was like, whatever. Everything started progressing. Everything's getting more painful. They're like, oh, you know, there's no shame in getting an epidural. If you really want it, it's gonna be really bad, like something that you've never felt before. And I was like, I know, but I want to feel all the pain and everything, and I want to go through all of it. So I really don't want to do an epidural. Great, fine. And they're like, okay, well, let me know if you change your mind. I'm like, okay, great. And then the anesthesiologist guy comes in, and he explains to me everything with the epidural. And I was like, yeah, but you know, like one of the reasons why is because I am afraid of being paralyzed. And he's like, oh no, there's no risk of paralyzation because the actual spinal cord like stops like halfway down your back, and the epidural goes in below that, so there's no risk of paralyzation, which is another thing that I wish I knew before as well. So I said, no, I don't want to do it. Okay, fine. He said, let me know if you do it. And I was like, okay, so I have like 7 centimeters to change my mind. And he's like, no, you can actually get an epidural at any point during labor. Just make sure, as long as you know that you can stay perfectly still while getting it, then you can definitely do it. Hey, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. All right, that's pretty cool. So now the pain is starting to get really bad, and I am screaming at the top of my lungs. I'm trying not to call in nurses, and every time I'm calling in nurses, and they're like, okay, just let me know when you need to poop. And I was like, okay. So every time I scream, I'm like, I have to poop. Because that's a sign of labor. Well, that's a sign that the baby's like coming out, when you need to poop. Because apparently when you have to push, you push with your butt, not with your stomach. Which is another thing that I didn't know, that I wish I knew before that, because I was practicing like breathing and pushing with my stomach, and you have to actually push like you're pooping on the toilet. It's really hard when you're having a contraction not to push. I feel like that's one of the reasons why it hurts so much, because not only you have to endure the pain, you also have to stop yourself from pushing, which I'm gonna be honest, a few times I kind of pushed just a little bit because it relieved like a little bit of the pain. Bless you. It relieved like a little bit of the pain when I did that, but I didn't push like super hard. But yeah, So Alex also had a little cardboard pamphlet thing or whatever. So every time I would have a contraction, I'm like, hot! He would like fan me with this paper, with this cardboard thing. And I was like, oh my God, I don't understand. Like I cannot figure this out. Contractions are happening like a couple times a minute. So it's happening pretty quickly. And I'm like, I should be going into labor like immediately. And they're like, oh no, you're just like 7, now you're 8 and this and that. So I finally get to 9 centimeters after enduring all of this pain. They come in and they ask if I want to get the epidural. I'm at 9 centimeters. I'm like right at the end. And I'm like, no, I can do it. And then the pain comes again and I'm basically passing out after every contraction because of the pain and also because of the heat and how hot it is. They're also giving me all these different things to ease the pain, which I feel kind of made it a little bit worse. So I wasn't able to like move around or do like go on my knees or something, you know, like different things that I thought I could do when I was like in labor. I just had to like stay on my back, stay on my side or whatever when I was going through like the contractions. Okay, so for every contraction, I was basically passing out at the end of it. Like I was closing my eyes and I was passing out, but then I would like wake up for like a second. I would wake up every time I would get a contraction. So I'm like, okay, you know, like I can do this. But then, oh, by the way, I had to do a COVID test and everything. That's weird. Not weird, but like, you know, I hated it because it was the actual one that goes inside your nose. So that was the first time I got one of those, which was annoying. While having a contraction, I had to get a COVID test while having contractions. Hey. And also, when I was having my contractions, I was like passing out at every time and then waking up when I would get the contractions because of the heat. So when they came in again asking about the epidural, after about like 5 minutes, right when they were about to leave, after I told them like no again, then I stopped them and I said, come back in. Okay, I want the epidural. They said I was at 9 centimeters. I was still able to get the epidural. They were like, if you can stay perfectly still, we can give you the epidural. I'm like, okay, great. So let's try that. And they're like, let us know right now because you're at 9 centimeters and it also takes like 45 minutes to get the epidural, like get everything situated and set up and all that stuff for you to actually get it. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Because the only reason I did it, I could have done it. I mean, I was at 9 centimeters. I could have gone all the way. But the only reason I didn't was because it was so hot in there. And I feel like it was hotter just because of what I was going through. So because it was so hot, I was afraid that I was going to pass out during actual pushing labor. And if I was forced to get an epidural, not forced, but I didn't want to, but I would rather get an epidural than go have a C-section if I passed out during labor, which honestly might not have happened if I probably all that pain would have made me like wake up anyway. But I didn't want to pass out, and if I passed out I can't push, and if I can't push they're gonna give me a C-section. So I caved into the epidural. So I got it at 9 centimeters. Alex had to leave the room because it was a sterile place for the epidural. So he left and then I had to sit up, which was pretty uncomfortable because, you know, like things are stretching down there. I didn't want to sit on it. So I had to sit down and they're like, all right, so we're going to do this real quick right after the last contraction. So I was like, okay. So they're like, let us know when the contraction is ending and then we'll start with the epidural. I'm like, great. So we wait, like literally like, all right, contraction's coming. I mean, let's get started. So I have the contraction, I yelled, whatever, I don't care, I'm in a lot of pain. Then I was like, all right, it's going away. So they like started getting the epidural into my back. Mind you, I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but for me, that epidural needle hurt way more than the actual contractions. I was like, so once they stuck it in, I flinched and they were like, no, don't move. And I was like, I can't, that hurts a lot. So they finally get it in and I had to stay really still, and then they did all their stuff, and the epidural is like instant relief. And I was like, oh my God, this feels amazing, like all the pain. And you're feeling so light, like it's floated, like you're floating, and like, it was like the best feeling in the world. And right when they're like, okay, the epidural's done, you can lie back down. Right when I was lying down, my OB comes in and was like, all right, time to push. And I was like, whoa, I got it like just in time. So I was like, okay, I could do this now. So they're getting me prepped. I gotta put my feet up and all that stuff. And Alex finally comes back. Well, actually no, Alex didn't come in just yet. I started pushing like just a little bit before Alex comes in, and she's like, okay, start pushing for me. And I was like, I have to poop and it's not gonna be good. And she's like, oh, I don't care, you know, like it happens or whatever, so just start pushing. And I was like, okay. So I start pushing, I start to poop. TMI, but like this is what happens during labor. Like it's gonna happen whether you like it or not. It's gonna happen. So I poop, and then she like stuffs, like you're also sitting on a like those doggy pee pad things or whatever anyway, like a giant one. So you're sitting on that, and then she just like stuffs a bunch more or whatever under me and stuff, and just like leaves it there, and it's like, all right, you're done, so continue pushing. So then Alex comes in. Alex actually thought that I was high, like the epidural would like give me like this high or something, because he came in and I was like, hey, I was acting like I was like high or something, and it really wasn't. I was just so relieved that there was like no more pain, that I was just like so relaxed. Like it felt so great like to not feel all that pain anymore, because it's actually really bad. Like it's not what I thought it was gonna be. The pain of the contractions, by the way, are in your butt area. They're not really in your stomach. They're like in your butt area. And it's like this, like, not even like a stabbing pain, but it's like a squeeze. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it hurts really bad. And it's not what you think it hurts. Like it's not what you think it is. And I'm starting to push again. And I am pushing for, I think, an hour and a half. And each time I push, they're like, okay, so don't breathe while you're pushing. This is something that I wish I knew before going into labor, that I actually did not know before going into labor. Because a lot of the things that I didn't know, I found out like during pregnancy, and I didn't know that before. So in the room, she's like, no, don't breathe when you're pushing, because it'll cause like blood vessels in your cheeks or whatever to pop, or something like that, or whatever, if maybe. So you have to hold your breath while you push, which was the worst thing in the world, because it's super hot. I'm very tired. You want me to hold my breath so I can pass out? Like, I don't understand. Like, I can't do that. So I'm pushing, I'm holding my breath, and I can only do it twice. And they're asking me each time I push to do it 4 times, like 4 pushes, each contractions, and I have to hold my breath for 10 seconds each time. So I can only do that twice. And then after that, like every time I push out, I would breathe just a little bit, like breathing out while I'm pushing out, because I can't hold my breath. I would literally pass out if I had to hold my breath again and push at the same time, holding it for 10 seconds while really tired and extremely hot. I'm doing this for an hour and a half or 2 hours or something, and his head is like right there, and he just won't come out. It's like going in, going out, and all that stuff. And I don't know. And she's like there watching down there every time I push, and then I see her go like this, and then and I was like, okay, I don't know what that was, because I'm on the epidural, I can't feel anything. And then all of a sudden I hear all the nurses were like, Dad, are you okay? And I was like, oh, what are they talking about? And I look up, and on the ceiling there's like this fan, there's like this light that has a glass, so it's actually like a mirror kind of glass or whatever, where I can see everything that's happening. So I'm like looking up the entire time, and I see his head, but then I also see like a lot of blood, and I was like, okay, you know, like all the pushing in the force, I'm pretty sure like there's gonna be blood. Turned out afterwards they had cut me, and I was like, okay, I didn't know that, and I really didn't want to get cut, but like it's better than getting ripped, because the healing process is way better and it's easier to stitch up that way. So they had cut me to make it easier. And then after like an hour and a half of pushing and all that stuff, by the way, they didn't tell me that I needed to put when I needed to push. I actually knew when I needed to push, because even though you have the epidural, it takes away the pain, but you still feel the pressure, and you still feel when you're actually having a contraction. While I was pushing as well, they had me on oxygen. Like every time I stopped pushing, I would like lie back and pass out, basically. Even though I was on the epidural, I would still pass out, but I was not so much in pain that I would actually knock out. I would just like close my eyes and like relax. So I have no idea what they were doing while I was relaxing. And you can actually feel the pressure of the contractions when it comes up. So I would relax, and then they would have me on oxygen, and Alex was fanning me, and then I would feel a contraction coming on. It's just like this pressure, like your stomach tensing up. You can still feel all of that. So I feel all that happening, and then I get up, I'm like, all right, it's time to push again. So I push, and I hold my breath for 10 seconds, and I push, and I feel like my eyes are about to pop out of my head. Then after like an hour and a half or 2 hours of pushing, my OB was like, okay, we're gonna do one more push, And then I do the one more push, and then she just gets this suction thing, just pulls him out. And then I just felt like blah, blah, blah. That's all I feel down there. And it was like the best thing. And I was like, oh my God, finally. And I see him, he starts to cry. And then they put him over there, and then they started cleaning him up before they gave him to me. Alex, I guess, cuts his umbilical cord because I was like just watching him. So I finally give birth, and I was like, this is like the best thing ever. So I don't know, that's basically it. I think I finally give birth, and I feel her take out the placenta and everything, and they finally put the baby on me, and I was crying with like no tears, because I don't know, I was like so happy. They finally take off the epidural. Within like a few minutes, I was able to get up and like walk or whatever. So they took off the epidural. They helped me get up because I didn't need to go to the bathroom, but I also needed to get onto the wheelchair that they finally was able to find for me to go into the postpartum unit. After staying there for a little bit, I got myself situated, was able to started to feel a little bit more. Then I got into the wheelchair and we go in. Mind you, the postpartum unit is on the same floor, and the AC is still broken, by the way. The postpartum unit is on the same floor as the labor unit. Once we go through the doors from the labor unit to the postpartum unit, it's cold, like it's freezing cold over there. And I'm like, how is this possible? It's literally a door away. Why is it so hard? In the unit that needs the most action, like needs the most activity, like it's literally called the labor unit. You have to do the work, and that's the one that doesn't have the AC. Like, just my luck, right? I've had a lot of bad luck experiences during my pregnancy. So yeah, so that's my labor story. Unfortunately, I was not able to take any video for whatever reason. They told my husband not to take any video, so we have no footage of any of it, which I really wanted. I even wanted to see all of it. I wanted to see him come out and all that stuff, which I didn't really see, but I was able to see it from the top mirror thing, from the light, and see him come out. So at least I got that. So that was something that's in my memory that I'm able to keep forever. That's my story. I'm glad I was able to share it with you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content. I will be making a little bit more videos on baby stuff and everything like that. So yeah, subscribe, put on that bell notification so you don't miss any of my new uploads, and yeah, hope to see you guys in my next videos. Thanks. Bye.